Welcome back to Ditch the Guilt, our daily spotcast for this week. I'm Beth Genly. I'm your host, and I'm here with Lisa Wade Berry, who is president of Empower Change, Inc., which is a consulting and coaching organization that works with nonprofits, communities, and individual difference makers. And because so many of you out there are individual difference makers, I know you're going to love this conversation. Lisa is also the author of Real Big Love, a difference maker's guide to gain greater clarity, energy, and impact for your cause and your life. And who doesn't want that? So, Lisa, welcome to Ditch the Guilt. I'm so glad you're here.
I am thrilled. Thank you so much for having me on.
Great. So now I can get rid of the glasses and we can just talk. So Lisa, have you run into guilt with the people that you talk with who are difference makers?
Absolutely. First experienced it with myself. And then especially as I was, I've seen it over the course of my career working in public service, nonprofit, service geared organizations. But really when I started doing research for the book, I came across so many people who were committed both in their lives, in their private lives, maybe in their professional life, volunteer community life, giving to others. But yet when it came to looking out for their own needs and looking out for themselves, they just defined that as being selfish and that they felt guilty if they ever actually took the time to attend to their own needs. And that's one of the concerns I try to address in the book because I thought, geez, what are we doing to ourselves?
So I've been there. I have totally been there, and I run into it with my clients all the time. And it's actually a very hard barrier to get over because we are so focused on service, and our clients or our patients or our whoever we're serving have so many needs that we want so much to address. So how do you shift that or help people shift that? Or do you think they should?
I absolutely think they should. And part of the reason I think they should is for the good of the people that they seek to serve. So not that I want them to feel any more guilt about not looking to their own needs, but truly when we do put ourselves on our priority list, somewhere on the priority list, I have found in my own life and have seen with my own clients that we're so much better able to show up for others from a place of deep compassion and authenticity and fullness and energy than when we're worn out, stressed out, burnout, and exhausted instead. I've seen really three areas, I think, where guilt really gets in the way. There's the idea that self-care is selfish, and I just think that that's so dangerous. There's the concept of, so many other people have it worse off than I do. I have no reason to complain about being tired or complain about whatever. So this comparison that can create the guilt. And then this complete inability to say no. Just to say no, that we feel guilty if we tell anybody no, but yet folks don't seem to feel guilty at all trying to suck up all of our time for us to help them with their priorities, So those are three areas that I've seen as being a real challenge. And that's one thing that, all those three areas that I really try to address in the book in terms of ways to think about those differently, ways to kind of get out from under that guilt and shift thinking so that we can be of even greater service and be happier and more energetic in our own lives too. And isn't that a nice combination?
Yes, indeed. So let's unpack those a little bit, Lisa, because I hear about them all the time. I have felt them. I still sometimes feel them. For instance, the other people are worse off than I am. How dare I? Whatever, fill in the blank. Yeah.
Right. And I think with that one, this is one that even growing up as a kid, I remember having these thoughts about my own experience, my own, trauma, and then, but when I looked around the world, I thought, I just don't even have a right to those feelings or those emotions because other people have it worse off. And the truth is, our experience is our experience. And it's okay to have the thoughts, the feelings, the emotions that go along with our experience as we're processing through it, and to deny ourselves that opportunity through this external comparison, and to feel guilty if we actually indulge our own inner, our own inner stuff, whether it's, the thoughts, feelings, or emotions. That can be dangerous territory that we then end up having to deal with later. It's not like those feelings go away. We just stuff them down, and we're never quite really sure how they're going to rear their heads later. And so that's one thing I really do encourage. Anytime, myself or even clients or family members start creating that comparison, well, I don't have a right to my feelings because someone else has it worse off. I think that's an immediate opportunity to stop and really look at what's going on here and let's deal with this right now, because the minute that the comparison and trying to stuff down starts, that's an indication that it's something that really does need to be dealt with. And we should have no guilt over dealing with it.
I'm thinking that kind of self-judgment can kind of bleed out into our service to others as well. That if we have some kind of bar for what's okay to say, this is distress, and above this bar it's definitely distress, but below it it's not worthy somehow. It seems like that's going to get in our way.
Right. Absolutely. One of the concepts that I address in the book is this idea of leading from a place of love. And to do that really does have to be both that non-judgmental, compassionate love toward those that we're serving. But the only way to get there is to have that same kind of love toward ourselves. And for most of the difference makers I know, loving others is easy. Loving ourselves is the hard part. But what I have figured out is when I can get over that barrier, wow, the love I have to bring, from a leadership perspective for others is so much higher. And, it kind of goes back to that namaste concept that a lot of people hear maybe for the first time in yoga class, but the divine light in me honors and recognizes the divine light in you. We have to see our own divine light first, right? I mean, we have to recognize that it's there and to be willing, without the guilt, to honor its experience, its thoughts, its feelings, and sometimes recognize that, hey, that's not serving anybody and it's time to shift it. But without the awareness first, we can't do the shifting. And so that really does become a challenge. One of the things that I've seen is so many people who really glorify this idea of selfless service. And this is something I really do address with my clients and in the book. I think that concept of selfless service is actually detrimental. And, if you look at just the dictionary definition of selfless, it's the idea of having concern for others with no personal regard or concern for one's own well-being. And that is simply just not sustainable. We created it as the stuff that saints are made of, that selfless service earns us a cloud with our name on it somewhere, but it's also the stuff that wears us out and burns us out. And so I encourage a shift to something that I call soulful service. The idea that to really truly be of continual service in this marathon, right? Because service isn't a sprint. None of our issues are quick fixes that, okay, I'm going to show up today and the problem's going to be gone tomorrow. It may take generations to address these challenges that we're focusing on. And so we have to look at the long-term sustainability of our own engagement, our own effort. And for that, I really encourage, not only looking at what truly, from a service perspective, makes us tick on the inside. And from a guilt perspective, we will often look out there and go, what really needs to be done? And let me do that, rather than what lights me up from the inside and how can that apply in my service? Knowing that if we're lit up from the inside, whatever interaction we're having with other people is just going to be that much more enjoyable for them too, right? But so the idea of that authenticity in our engagement, also the courage or commitment to and consistency to show up in a courageous or consistent way. And then finally, leading with love. And with that love component, if we're including the self-love, then we have to look at self-care. And that's one of the reasons I lay out like these 8 spheres of soulful self-care to where people can really look at where am I doing a great job, in these 8 areas, and where could a little bit of attention actually benefit me and those that I serve as well.
So what do you consider to be the top self-care activities that these soulful caregivers, difference makers you call them, which is a great phrase, what do you think is just critical for self-care?
Sure. That's an area where I really do think a cookie cutter approach doesn't apply, where we're all so individually different. I can tell you what mine is. And this is an area and this is where I finally got over the guilt of investing time in me, because I realized the huge impact it had on my family. And for me, that has to do with my own energy management. And so I love to journal. And so I'll go into my journal and I'll ask a question and then just kind of clear my mind and see what kind of an answer comes up, just what comes out. And literally for over 15 years, I've been getting the same answer in terms of how can I best show up in the world and show up for other people. I've been encouraged to do 3 things on a regular basis, and that's sweat, write, and pray. And prayer can be either prayer or meditation. It's whatever my spiritual practice is. But sweat, write, pray. When I do those 3 things consistently, it is wild what a difference it makes in my day, what a difference it makes for my family. If I don't do those 3 things, and for like 4 days in a row, my family starts asking me, why not? Because they notice the difference. It's like I turn cranky and crabby, and they know when I haven't been investing in the things to take care of me, because their life becomes less sparkly. Let's put it that way. But before, the idea of sweat, that can be anything, intentional movement, but I like to run, and I run on it. I live in Oklahoma and the weather's weird. And so I run on a treadmill a lot, but I used to have these guilt thoughts, even when on a treadmill, of I should be doing the dishes, or there's laundry to do, or there's a deadline for somebody else. Just all these guilty, I shouldn't be doing this for me. I should be doing it, spending this time for others, until I finally realized that the time I invest in me actually is time invested in other people too, because I'm showing up better for them and am better able to meet their needs and have the energy and the desire to do more for others when I'm doing the things I need to do for me. So I had to turn that one on its head.
That's really good. I like that very much. And sweat, write, and pray. That's a fabulous shorthand, a kind of what do I want to say, a dashboard. You can look and say, have I, where's my dial on each of these 3, and how low have I gotten here, or how can I bring the needle back up?
Yep. Yeah. And it's just amazing to me, the difference in the days when I do that and the days when I don't. Legitimate difference that I can discern. And so, what that magic formula is, it's going to be different for different people. But I found that for me, that's the key. So I break down these 8 soulful service areas, and it includes attention on the 4 that people kind of expect, which is body, mind, heart, and spirit. So those 4 that we might hear a lot about. But then I add the idea of voice. Are we actually voicing our concerns, our needs? Are we using our voice to advocate for others? Energy, which is just huge in my world. To me, that's probably my number 1 concern. I do look at resources, and that can be time. It can also be money. And for many people who are out trying to make a difference, it might not be the path to a padded bank account. Most of the people I know who are in the business of serving others directly, especially, are in it for the heart and not for the outstanding salary. And so resources can be a challenge. And so really looking at and addressing that, if it's causing us stress or strain, then being willing to look at that. And the final area that I encourage folks to look at is the idea of community, and actually having that support system, having that tribe of people who are maybe on a similar path, or at least who, without a doubt, have your back and have your best interest at heart, and where you can reciprocate and return that favor. As a lifelong introvert, I didn't realize until recently how important the idea of tribe is, or of community is. And once I found a community where I feel that I feel a part of, and I know that they're a part of me, it's really shifted the way I'm willing and able, and the courage I have to show up authentically in the world.
Wow, that is so much good stuff. And I think some of your categories are a little unexpected. I was not expecting you to say voice at all, but I love that one. I really love it. I'm always on about resources too, and community, so I'm totally with you on that one. And then there was a fourth one. What am I forgetting?
Energy. Yeah, energy.
Of course. So I was going to say, in my top priorities for self-care, just getting enough sleep. I see that as a huge one for many of us. We just don't allow ourselves to get enough sleep.
Yeah.
And, I turn into, well, to say it politely, I turn into someone who is not very nice when we don't get enough sleep.
That has been an ongoing challenge for me too, my entire life. And honestly, if I get 6 or more hours of sleep a night, I feel like I've gone to Disneyland and I'm so excited. But typically that doesn't happen. And I think, people are different in terms of how much sleep they need. But the energetic component, to me, also looks at partly refilling our own energy tanks. If we think of ourselves as, as a car or as a teapot or whatever, just making sure that when we are serving others, we're serving from a place of fullness rather than trying to serve from empty. And because I do think about energy a lot, I think about where is that energy level? Where's that dial? If I'm a plug-in car, an electric car, are my batteries charged up? But the other thing I know, especially in a service area, especially for folks who are prone to maybe feeling the guilt, we tend to give our energy away, and we tend to take on the negative energy of others that we might be serving. Because for so many people who have these big open hearts and want to be of service, we will take their junk into us like sponges, and sometimes not even realize that we're doing it. And so I call it energetic hygiene, but having the almost like taking a shower for the energy of your body, these energetic hygiene practices where we can give their energy back and we can bring our energy back to us, but making sure that we don't get dragged down energetically as we're in the process of serving, really being responsible for the energy that we're giving out and the energy that we're taking in, and making sure that it's high quality and not toxic.
Okay, so 2 things. One is, it seems like sweat pray comes right in here for when I was thinking, how would I take a shower to clean up my energy and to clean up other people's energy out of my system? That just popped right into my head. Oh, those are good runs.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
That's for me, like I said, running on the treadmill. When I say run, I use that term really loosely, like a herd of turtles stomping through peanut butter kind of running. But it's just a matter of intentional movement. Yoga might be great for some people. For me, I love yoga, but it's just not quite intense enough for my energetic needs to kind of process the energy that I need to process. So I think it's just about knowing yourself there. But for that, to me, is one of the very best ways. Writing from an emotional energy perspective, or even the mental, what are the mental thoughts or the emotions I'm feeling as I'm journaling, I give voice to that. That's a place for me to become aware and give voice to those thoughts and feelings on paper. And it's so interesting to me that sometimes I don't even know they're there. Once they're out, it's like all the power, any negative charge that they may have held goes away. Or if it doesn't completely go away, then I recognize that's something I really do need to deal with. And on the pray part, for me, that conversation, to me, the conversation goes both ways. It's both asking and it's also receiving. And so, I'll often throw meditation in under the pray as well. But during those times, that's when I really try to ground in as well and really ground my energy to where I'm not all, flying around, everywhere externally, but really grounding into my body, becoming aware of, what thoughts and feelings are mine and what might not be mine at all that I'm carrying around, and letting those go. And I don't do that in the rest of the day when I'm out running around. But when I spend that 10, 15 minutes, really getting settled, to me, that's a beautiful time to manage energy.
Wow, that is amazing stuff. And I'm just loving it. And I'm also having this little nagging voice in the back of my mind. I wanted to get back to saying no as the other piece where people have challenges around guilt. And I'm feeling like we have about 10 minutes left. I want to have some time for that.
All right. No, it's a complete sentence. It's a complete sentence. And once that dawned on me that I didn't have to explain myself, I didn't have to make sure other people understood why I needed to say no or had to say no, that I could just say no. That was freeing. I mean, freeing. And at first it was guilt laden. I'll admit it. It was hard to say no. And, but what I started realizing is how many people were so willing and eager to take advantage of my time and energy if I gave them the chance. Mm-hmm. And once I started taking care of my time and energy, more of my time and energy went to my priorities in the ways that I could be of genuine, authentic service in a way that lit me up because I had the time and energy to do that. And B, less of my energy was going towards stuff that in the big scheme of things didn't make any difference for my priorities at all. And then I would feel guilty about not making the difference on my priorities. So either way, there was the guilt, right? And it's interesting because some people feel guilty for asking, and I fall in that camp. I'm more likely to feel guilty if I ask for help. And and then those of us who feel guilty for asking are also often the ones who feel guilty for saying no to others when they ask. So it's this weird, vicious circle. But once I realized it's okay to say no, then it's like I gave other people the permission to say no to me if I ever needed to ask for help. And that was freeing too, because there wasn't that attachment to, or, some thought of, ooh, they must be mad or upset or whatever if I actually have a need and ask for help. So that's been a kind of interesting, unexpected benefit of learning how to say no. I protect my own time and energy, and it's not like I say no to everything. If I can be of genuine assistance and if it makes sense, then great. But there are some things that just don't make any sense at all. And maybe there's somebody, if I say no, there's somebody even better for that task that can be the next in line to be asked next, so.
Yeah, I think there's sometimes a little bit of ego that gets into, if they asked me for help, then I can do my thing. I can be cool. I can be helpful. I can be good. I can, and sometimes that's not a helpful motivation. And turning down that motivation turns on the guilt, and just to unhook it out of ourselves can be so freeing, as you say.
Yeah. One thing I also, kind of along with that, sometimes people are asking for help in things that they could very easily do themselves. And I found that oftentimes my willingness to quickly say yes to do it for them was denying them the opportunity to learn and grow and be responsible for their own stuff. And that was a big aha for me too.
I think that's not only with kids. I think that's with adults too.
Absolutely. Often more times with adults, because we know with kids, they're in learning mode. And sometimes with adults, we become in a situation where we get in enabling mode. And once I started seeing that in myself, that's not something that I'm interested in terms of enabling or taking away from someone's ability to grow and to be responsible for their own stuff. And so, no is an interesting is an interesting opportunity. It can be both freeing. Initially, it can bring the guilt, but ultimately, once we start being able to say no with some conviction and with a recognition that no is not a bad thing, it can actually be a very good and empowering thing, then we can shift the way we look at that one word conversation.
I love it. I love it so much. There is a lot of good stuff in this conversation. And we've about run out of time. And I know you have a gift to offer for everyone. So I want to get back to that.
Yeah, absolutely. Through Real Big Love, my book, I set up this whole conversation about soulful service. And I've been offering 45-minute, basically free 45-minute soulful service amp-up conversations. So for folks who are out there making a difference in the world, this is like a one-on-one Zoom call conversation, completely complimentary, where we can look at the ideas of authenticity, of being big in our service through either courage or consistency or commitment, and also love, but looking for those areas where maybe there is lacking clarity or lacking energy, and identifying those as a way to raise awareness and really think about solutions so that we can have a bigger impact for our causes, for the people we serve, for our world, while also genuinely enjoying our lives in the process.
Oh my goodness, clarity, energy, and impact. Who doesn't want that? Who doesn't want to talk to you after this conversation? It's just been so much fun. So we'll put the link to that page where people can sign up for that conversation right below this video so that people will be able to take advantage of that. That's a wonderful offer.
Excellent.
Lisa, this has just been so much fun and so enlightening. Thank you very much.
Oh, I so appreciate the opportunity to talk. Thank you.
All right. Take care then.
You too.